What is currently happening, programs? Welcome to the Grid VR, where I'll be bringing you this week's news in virtual reality. It's Friday the 15th of September 2017, and all I can say this week is, I can see clearly now, the rain is... No. We've got Arctica 1 bringing the Russian snowstorm, Pimax bringing the pixels, or not, Quake 2 bringing the pain, Bloody Zombies bringing the rain, and much more. Today, I'm going to cover off the main events to keep you in the loop. So stay locked, crush that like button, enjoy, and welcome to the Grid VR. 4A Games, who developed the popular FPS survival horror game series Metro, have confirmed a release date for their upcoming AAA VR title Arctica 1. October 10th is the day we will all be able to storm the grounds of a good old-fashioned post-apocalyptic Russian whiteout and gun down enemies ranging from basic raiders to determined super mutants. As far as weaponry goes, you have a few options at your disposal, including the Minotaur revolver, the Carver electromagnetic smart pistol, and the up-close and personal Taipan plasma gun. And you'll be able to do things like mod weapons on the fly, as well as curve the trajectory of your projectiles to target enemies behind cover. Movement-wise, the game is teleportation only at this stage, and in all honesty, if it's handled in a similar way to Wilson's Heart and built around what the game has to offer, then it's not going to be a game killer for most, though it will for some. But I'd wager that given the pedigree of the studio and the fact that this looks to be, for the most part, a cover-based game, teleportation might actually be a blessing of sorts if implemented correctly. There have been reports of a small 2 gig install size, but that seems unlikely given the amount of high-res textures and such on display in the demo videos. And if we look at the Oculus Store, the space required is listed as 37 meg, so I'm inclined to suspect a 37 gig install size, though that's a bit on the hefty side given that Lone Echo is 16 gig. Still, who cares, because the game is coming in October, and if you pre-order now via the Oculus Store, you will receive a 10% discount off the full price of $29.99, bringing it down to a mildly more billfold friendly $26.99. On to the tech side of things. Pimax is a company bringing enthusiast-level demands to VR tech sooner rather than later, with 2 new versions of HMD called the Pimax 8K and Pimax 5K, though these designations are a bit off as the 8K unit has 2 4K screens, which, if you do a little math, doesn't equal 8K. And for those of you that don't math, one 8K screen is actually equal to 4 4K screens, not 2, and it's a similar deal for the 5K HMD. Regardless of that, with these headsets, SDE, or screen door effect, which is where you can see the physical gaps between pixels, is basically a thing of the past. So goodbye to that argument, thank fuck. Both HMDs are slated to have a wide as hell 200-degree field of view and will use custom CLPL displays, which are low persistence LCD panels developed and patented by Pimax specifically for VR, and these will supposedly remove issues like ghosting and low brightness, which plagued an earlier build of the headset. Additionally, there will also be a 5K Business Edition that will use AMOLED screens instead and run a lower 75Hz refresh rate. To alleviate the massive graphical lifting power required to push 2 screens at such high resolutions, Pimax is developing a technology called Brain Warp, which, among other things, doubles the refresh rate and then displays the image on one eye first, followed by an image on the other eye, but not at the same time, sort of like a really fast left to right eye shuttering effect. This, in conjunction with techniques like ASW and ATW, help reduce the strain on your PC to help it deal with such a hefty amount of pixels. The Pimax is listed to be compatible with Steam VR and Oculus Home using a third-party tool, and compatible with Valve's Lighthouse trackers, so you could potentially swap it out with your Vive headset and switch from the Pimax's built-in inside-out tracking to outside-in tracking, and play your current VR games in a much higher resolution. In addition, the controllers are similar to the Vive ones with thumbsticks added, and so for Vive wand users, this could be the optional extra you've been waiting for to get those much requested thumbsticks. And it looks like there's a hardstyle firing mode included as well. Aesthetically, the headsets are reminiscent of last year's Infinite Eye and Star VR headsets, though both of those headsets had a 210-degree field of view. The Pimax HMDs will have an adjustable head strap, built-in mic, IPD adjustment, and be suitable for people that wear glasses. Instead of headphones, built-in speakers will handle the audio, though you can use your own headphones, and an auto demisting system for those steamy VR nights is also included. The video on screen now shows the modular system and optional extras in action, like a PSVR style head strap with built-in earphones, a cooling fan accessory, eye tracking modules, a scent module, and a wireless add-on that clips onto the head strap. And it also looks like there'll be a hand tracking module available like the Leap Motion. The video also demonstrates that the unit is lighter than a Vive, though that's without all the optional extras. This post on Twitter seems to outline the pricing of the units, thanks to Reddit user AEBKOP for spotting that, though no official word on pricing has been released yet. And while this all sounds absolutely fabulous, there are some reported caveats like visual limitations that may or may not be correctable in software, and there could be various compatibility issues with existing software which may or may not be a big deal. And given that the Kickstarter hasn't even kickstarted, it's really hard to tell for certain at this stage what the actual end result will be, as the units aren't out yet. But from what's on paper so far, it literally lists every missing feature people describe when I've heard them say, I'm not wasting my money on VR until it has this feature. Well, here are all those features, potentially, and the Kickstarter begins September the 19th, with headsets hopefully shipping before the end of the year and the wands and base stations early 2018. For me, if the headsets deliver half of the stuff Pimax are claiming, it will be an impressive feat. And if you want to keep up play-by-play, check the link in the description below to see what you could potentially be in for and get ready to get backing. The Quake 2 VR mod is doing the rounds again, and even though it was released in May, in case you missed it, and have a reasonable stomach for VR, and want to first-person shoot your way through one of id Software's finest, you can either use an existing copy of Quake 2 from disc, if you're that legit, or grab Quake 2 on Steam for $5. Then just go to the Quake 2 VR mod and instructions link in the description of this video and download this binary zip file here if you want just the original game, or download this one if you want to use the HD textures pack as well, which is the one that I use. Once it's downloaded, extract and open it up. Now go to your Quake 2 game directory or Steam installs folder, which is likely here, unless you installed Steam on a different drive, and in this base Q2 folder, copy the pack0.pack file and this video folder into the base Q2 folder that's in the Quake 2 VR mod folder you downloaded. Now go back out to the Quake 2 VR folder and just run this Quake 2 VR application. And if you get this error here, check the description below for a link to this DLL file. Drop that into the mod folder and away you go. Additionally, if you don't want to buy Quake 2, you can get the pack with the shareware version included and simply follow the shareware instructions down here. Easy. Also, this mod is an Oculus Rift mod, but Vive users can get involved with the latest version of Revive. So enjoy. And briefly, Stress Level Zero, the team that bought us Hover Junkers, have released their mid-80s duck hunting throwback, Duck Season, on Steam today for $19.99. As a proud owner of a Kingbit entertainment system, you can hunt ducks during the day and watch as something more sinister begins to creep in during the night. The game has multiple endings, lots of Easter eggs, mini games, short films, and more. So if you want a straight up blast from the past, then get to hunting, boy. Them ducks not gonna shoot themselves. The Arma style VR military sim Onward is free for all to play this weekend, and if you want to see what is undoubtedly one of the best military VR shooters out there at the minute, then you can check the description for a link to the Steam page for the game. This should be a great boost for the player base, and even though it's actually already decent, a free weekend like this should see a strong boost to its online activity, which means more players and less wait time between drinks. After the free weekend, if you want to stick around, which a lot of you probably will, the game will set you back around $24.99 on a regular day of the week. Dreamsale Games have put their VR mech game, the Iota Project, up on Steam as a free pre-alpha demo, which means you can head over to Steam now and play this build of the game for free. There's a link in the description to the Steam page, but just be aware that while this is actually pretty damn cool, it's not without bugs, being a pre-alpha build and all, but it's free, fun, and actually not that buggy. So Justice League is coming to Vive and Rift in 4 stages prior to the movie release later this year, and I don't care. Sorry, the DC movies haven't done much for me, and given that a couple of my favorite comics ever have come from this outfit, the whole thing seems like a bit of a try-hard letdown. And in all honesty, I'm not expecting much more from their VR efforts. Still, if you're interested, stay tuned or some shit. InDreams have released their co-op side-scrolling brawler with a Double Dragon feel and a penchant for massacre on Steam for $15 this week. The game is for Rift and Vive users, and you can slaughter your way through stumbling dystopian zombies with 1 to 4 of your friends, both on and offline. The game will start off simple enough with basic moves and commands, but as you progress, those commands evolve into Street Fighter style inputs that are allocated randomly and get more complex as the game goes on. There's a lot to like here, and I think it's kinda cool seeing what I would think is a purely flat screen platform move on into the VR space. Google Street View has been integrated into Google Earth VR, so you can now drop into certain hotspots and have a look around at locations from inside a 3D sphere instead of a low poly ground zero, much like you can currently do with Google Street View, but in VR. There's still a lot of room for development here, but what's on offer right now is pretty intense, and it's only going to get better. And finally, I'm heading out of town for a week to party way too hard, so this video is early, and next week's one will likely be late. But don't hate the player, hate the game, son. Actually, this is absolutely self-inflicted, so you can totally blame me. Sorry. And that's this week on the Grid VR. If you have more you would like to add, then hit me up in the comments below and let's discuss. And if you like this video, then crush that like button, hit the EXO logo to subscribe if you wanna, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!